Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon to all our 12 Monarchs out there in Monarch Nation, coming off a disappointing 35-24 loss at Pittsburgh. From my perspective, going into this game, we talked all week long with our players about having to be one step faster in this game just to be able to compete with a team from the ACC, a team like Pittsburgh that's a good football team. And I felt like we were. I felt like our kids competed for all 60 minutes of this game. I felt like they played hard. I felt like they gave everything they had to give in this football game. So I was very proud of our players for that, for the level of competitiveness we have. Really the key to this football game is the fact that we lost the turnover battle in this game. We turned the ball over one time, which was a big one, the interception late in the ball game, and then we didn't get any turnovers back from Pittsburgh. We didn't cause any fumbles. We didn't get any interceptions. Either from their offense or in the kicking game, and then the penalties. We hurt ourselves significantly with penalties in this football game. We had 14 total penalties, 8 penalties on offense, 3 on defense, and then 3 in our special teams that took us out of a number of situations where we either could have scored more points or defensively having 3 turnovers on that drive late in the game that led to their final touchdown. With special teams, we needed to win this phase of the game, and we didn't. This ended up being even in special teams. We got the onside kick, which led to a touchdown, which got the game to 28-24 in the third quarter. That was a huge momentum shift for us in the game. But we also, I felt like we allowed a touchdown. We gave up a 56-yard punt return in the first half. In the second quarter of this game, we went from up 10-7 to down 14-10. So those two really neutralized each other in the special teams. We went after them a number of times. We made them punt 5 times. We went after it, tried to block the punt. We couldn't get home. We needed to block a punt. We needed to get a turnover there, and we didn't. So that phase really ended up being even. Defensively, a lot of positives to take from this game. A couple of the big ones, the fact that, as I mentioned, we had them force them to punt 5 times in the game. We also had a big fourth down stop late in the game when we were chasing points and we were down 11. We were trying to create some things to happen, had a big stop on fourth down. I look at how we defended the pass in this game. They have an NFL prospect at quarterback in Tom Savage, big guy who throws the ball well, had a lot of success throwing the ball, particularly when you look back at the Duke and the New Mexico games. Threw the ball very well. In this game, he was 11 for 18 for 104 yards, and this is a game where we played a lot of man coverage, more man coverage than we've ever played here as a program, and we put Reggie Owens and Eric Lewis, our 2 corners, in man coverage the majority of the game. Reggie Owens ended up playing 68 snaps in this game. Eric Lewis played 60, and they were predominantly in man coverage. And the reason we did that, we were trying to commit as many guys as we could to the run game. We knew going into this game that they were going to come at us. They were going to pound us with the football. They outweighed us on average by 50 pounds a man. When you look at their offensive line, tight end, fullbacks, to our interior guys, their average was 320, ours was 270. So we knew if we just let them lean on us, we weren't going to be able to stop the run. So we tried to commit 9 into the box for the run game and hold up as well as we could, and that put tremendous stress on Lewis and Owens, and those guys really came through in coverage. As I mentioned, holding him to 104 yards passing, that was critical for us to be able to have an opportunity to win. Where they got us was they ran the ball for 266 yards. Isaac Bennett went 30 for 240. He's a big back. He's obviously a good back. He's 5'11", 210. He was powerful, shifty, and it was really a combination of their size and some poor run fits, some poor tackling that we had in certain situations that allowed them to have the type of success they did. But this is certainly something to build on for our defense. When I look at the last ACC team we played in Maryland and what they did to us yardage-wise, points-wise, what East Carolina did to us yardage-wise, points-wise, and I look at this game, see tremendous progress by our defense. Offensively, just wasn't good enough to win. That's the bottom line. This performance was not good enough to win on offense. We had 405 yards and 24 points. I felt like this was a 600-yard 45-point night for us on offense, the way it's set up and some of the adjustments we made with personnel on offense. But what really killed us was 6 of our 13 drives were stopped by penalties. We had 6 drives in this game. We had 4 of the drives in the first half that were stopped by penalties, where we were moving the football. We were going to have opportunities to score more than the 10 points we put on the board in the first half. And particularly in that second quarter, we just kept killing ourselves with penalties, whether it be a holding penalty, false starts. We had a couple of legal formations in this game, which we don't ever have, and those really set us back offensively. We protected well enough in this game to throw for 312 yards. Taylor was only officially sacked twice. He had to move a lot, he had to scramble a lot, but this was clearly the best defensive line we had played against. So we did just well enough to be able to be successful in that area, and we rushed the ball for 93 yards, which we had to have an ability in this game to run the ball some. And I felt like we did that by moving Antonio Vaughn to tailback. We were able to get a couple explosives out of him. He had a huge run when we were backed up in the first quarter, 34-yard run that moved the field, and then he had the touchdown run that were critical for us in this game. So overall, disappointing, very disappointed with this one. Players were yesterday. We met as a team. We felt like this was a game we were capable of winning. We felt like this was, a lot of things were going to have to go right, but we felt like it was a game we were capable of winning. And when we look back at it, particularly at the self-inflicted wounds, if you will, that we incurred, particularly with the penalties, that was the biggest difference in us not being able to win. Looking at this week's opponent, Norfolk State, they're 2-5 right now, 2-2 in their league. This is a team that when you look at their 7 games, their only blowout loss was at Rutgers, 38-0. The other 6 games they've played have all been close football games. I think they're well coached. They have a lot of respect for Pete Adrian, their head coach. Guy's been in the business for a long time. He's one of the great people in coaching. I like Pete a lot. I like what he's accomplished. My only experience and knowledge of Norfolk State before I moved here was one of the losingest programs in the country. And since I've been here in 2007, got to meet Pete and seen what he's done, just tremendous accomplishments. I know this season isn't going the way he would like it to, but when I look at that program overall and what they've accomplished since Pete Adrian's been here, he's done an outstanding job. We've got to win on the road. We haven't won a game yet on the road. This is technically an away game, so we're an 0-3 football team right now on the road. We need to get our first win away from home. Offensively, Rolandon Finch really grabs my attention. Their running back, he's a transfer from BC. I think he's similar style to Isaac Bennett, the running back that we just played against at Pittsburgh. He was a good player at Boston College and having a nice season. He just went 21 for 141 against Hampton this past weekend, and what really jumped off the page at me is he only had 2 negative yards in this game, so he's getting forward progress when he's running the ball. Defensively, this is a typical Pete Adrian defense. They're fast, they're physical, they're well coached on defense. They've got 20 takeaways in 7 games. That one really jumps out at me. They're almost averaging 3 turnovers per game. So they're a defense that creates opportunities. What's hurt them more is the fact they've turned the ball over 16 times on offense. Because you've got that many takeaways, you should be having a lot more success. The biggest issue with dealing with a Norfolk State defense is it's a 3-4 scheme. It's something we don't see on a regular basis. They're a 3-down, 4-linebacker operation. A little bit different schematically. The blitzes they come at you with, the gap fits that they have. So we're going to have to be really well prepared against this scheme and what they do. They're only allowing 342 yards of offense right now, giving up 24 points a game. And their top 3 linebackers, Cook, King, and Trail, those 3 guys have really got our attention right now. In 7 games, they've got 175 tackles, 25.5 TFLs, and 13 sacks. That's a lot of production out of the linebacker position, out of those 3 guys. So we'll be paying very close attention to them. Overall, very excited to play this game. I think this is a great game for the city of Norfolk. I think it's a great game for Hampton Roads. When we played them back in 2011, there was so much excitement around the game. I realized it was a playoff game at that time, but just the fact that we're playing, we're only 4 miles from each other. I think it's a great football game to play, and they'll come back to us in 2015, and I'm hoping it's a series that we can continue beyond that game in 15, and I'll take questions.
Bobby, is Antonio Vaughn, is he your tailback now? And you made a decision on that?
Yeah, we have, Harry. We're looking to move forward from what we just did in Pittsburgh and for the rest of the season, having him play that position. We feel like it makes us a more dynamic offense with him in the backfield, with not only what he can do running the ball, but what he can do coming out of the backfield. And particularly now when we get into a no-back set, there's 5 wide receivers on the field. And we feel like we become even more of a dangerous team. Now, we'll still be, Colby Goodwin will still get his time in there, Cam Boyd, Gerard Johnson. We're still going to work those guys in because, as I've always said, we can't be a one running back operation. It's just not the way we can do it. But when I look at this football game and see that Antonio Vaughn gets 23 touches, that makes us a better football team because he's normally a 4, 5, 6 touch a game guy at the most. So the more we can get the ball in his hands, the better. We can be more creative now with what we're doing with him because of how dynamic he is, whether we line him up in the backfield or in the slot or put him at wide receiver. So it creates more opportunities.
One of the things Taylor said after the game Saturday was that the offense had to slow down a little bit because Antonio was new to the position. Is that because he didn't know the plays and it's a new position for him?
No, it's got nothing to do with that. We purposely slowed it down because at times we need to let him catch his breath.
Okay.
At times when we were watching him, I was focused on him. Brian Scott was focused on him. We wanted to make sure at times that he could catch his breath. He hit that run in the first quarter. He went 34 yards, and he really ran about 64 yards. He just needed a second to catch his breath. So there'll be times like that, Harry, when we'll slow it down a little bit based on what his involvement is, and then there'll still be a lot of times where we'll be going at it as fast as we can. And I anticipate more moving forward that there'll be more of a rotation involved there. We strictly felt like against Pittsburgh to get our best 11 on the field, he needed to take the majority of the reps at the running back position, and that's what we did.
You had 3 games in against the FBS schools. Anything that has kind of surprised you or is a little bit different than what you expected? No,
it's exactly what we thought it would be. Is all 3 teams are talented. When you look at them now, I think East Carolina's 5-2, Maryland's 5-2, Pittsburgh's 4-2. So they're all good teams. They're all good football teams. Depth, size, and speed. You can see the difference. You can see where we are right now, and you can see where East Carolina, Maryland, and Pittsburgh are. They're a step above us in that regard. Now, the goal is we're going to catch them. It's just going to take us, a little bit of time to get there between recruiting and then developing. That's what's got to happen. But I definitely feel like there's tremendous progress made from what happened up at Maryland to what just happened at Pittsburgh.
You talk about the FBS schools those schools in particular being a step above you.
Right.
And it would be a difficult thing for them to lose to you, I would imagine, to lose to you. Now, you're playing Norfolk State this week. You're probably a step up from Norfolk State since you're transitioning to FBS. Does that put any more pressure on you, or like this is a game you can't lose?
Well, I look at every game as a game we can't lose. I mean, I felt like that going to Pittsburgh. I'm still disappointed as I'm talking to you right now that we lost to Pittsburgh, but the goal and the expectation going into every game is to win. The expectation Saturday going to Norfolk State is to win, and that's the mindset I want the players to have. I was really clear with them yesterday in the team meeting that was a good, solid performance. We played well at Pittsburgh, but we didn't win. So there is no moral victory coming out of that game Saturday night. A loss is a loss. We're a 4-3 team right now. We've never lost more than 3 games as a program. So the expectation is to win. And the biggest thing I want to see this week coming out of this football team is to come back here with an attitude that we have to get better. We're not good enough right now as a program to get where we want to be, and that'll be the expectation coming right out tomorrow in practice.
What makes this matchup with Norfolk State so cool?
I think the fact that we're 4 miles apart. I mean, that's the first thing that jumps out at me. Is it reminds me of back when I was coaching at Maine and BU and Northeastern were playing football. You know, those two were right across the city from each other in Boston. There's very few of these matchups that you see in college football, and that's why I'm excited about it. That's why I hope beyond this year in 2015 we can find a way to, you know, at least occasionally play the game, you know, whatever that means, however our schools can work it out. But to continue to play, I'd like to be able to keep playing them because I think that's unique about it. And then you look at the fact too that, you know, now there's an FBS program in Hampton Roads. You know, that's what Old Dominion is now. We're an FBS program, and it'd be sad to think that just Norfolk State and Hampton would keep playing each other, that we wouldn't have an ability to at least keep playing Norfolk State, which I'd really like to do. I'm a proponent of playing that game, of keeping that going, because personally I think it's something that's good for the city.
Bobby?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned, you know, tremendous progress, especially defensively,
Mhm.
from Maryland to Pitt. In
Right.
what areas? Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, very, very clearly, Dave, understanding scheme. That's the biggest area of growth that I see. We were as basic could be defensively against East Carolina and Maryland. Guys were just trying to figure out the scheme, just trying to understand what they're being taught. And then on top of that, you add the fact that it's a lot of freshmen that are trying to do that. And then we go into this Pittsburgh game, and we were doing some different things defensively, things that we haven't done a lot of in the past, particularly the amount of man we were playing, the types of line games and movements, the type of blitzes we were running. There's more adjustments now taking place within the game, and that's what gets me the most excited about where I think we can go in the future with this defense. Now, you know, there's nothing we can do about the fact that we're outweighed by 50 pounds a man. You know, we've got to recruit bigger. We got to get bigger in the weight room. You know, that part's got to happen. If we're going to be able to play teams like Pittsburgh and then even North Carolina coming up, you know, it's going to be the same thing. We're going to be outweighed by 50 pounds a man. We've got to be able to handle that through recruitment and development. But just the fact, Dave, there was an ability on defense to at least stop one phase. Okay, I felt like we shut down their pass game. You know, that wasn't the case when it was East Carolina or Maryland. You know, that makes this a little bit different. That makes it a little bit better in my mind, that there was progress made in that area. And I'm seeing some guys that are starting to develop. Even as we're sticking with this plan, Dave, where we're playing 25, 26, 27 guys on defense. There's a lot of guys running in and out of the game. We're seeing development in those guys. I'm seeing us get better on defense, and that's encouraging because that's got to happen. You know, if we're going to get to the goal of which is try to win the rest of these 5 games and then go into Conference USA and compete for a championship, we've got to continue to improve on that side of the ball, and we are.
You referenced the penalties earlier, going back and dissecting it. Penalties of execution, of mental. I mean, what kind of? Can you
Sure.
break that down a little bit?
Yeah, the 5-yard variety that we had, we got some false starts, and we got the false starts by some guys that were in there playing different positions in the O-line that hadn't been playing, and they were matched up with one of the best defensive linemen in the country, so that contributed to that. There's no excuse for it, but that happened. A couple of the illegal formations, the receivers not getting lined up right, that's unacceptable because that's guys that are regulars on the field. We had 3 holding penalties. I don't like them, but there were a couple times we were overmatched. They got us into some one-on-one situations in protection we were trying to avoid, but they've got good coaches too, so they schemed a couple things to get Donald matched up in some one-on-ones, and they got us on some holding penalties. The one on Jared Brown, it's unacceptable. He recovers the onside kick and gets up, and the guy grabs his face mask, so he slaps him in the head. Can't do that one. The one they called that I thought that was the most critical penalty of the game when we were down 28-24, and we just got to stop on defense. We got Savage out of the pocket, got pressure. He was clearly throwing the ball out of bounds. You could see it. He was trying to airmail it and get rid of it, and our guys just went a step too far. We ended up having one of our guys push him at the end of the play. And the point I made to our kids is you got to recognize the fact that his body's turned, his arms arched, he's throwing the ball out of bounds. It's clear. So everybody's got to pull off and throw their hands up. You know, we just won that rep. We had it. We won the rep. And instead, we take one more step. We push him. And I didn't think it was a overly aggressive push, but the bottom line, we pushed him when he was throwing the ball away. And, you know, he can't do it. And then that one, they kept the ball. And I really felt like, Dave, that penalty there, momentum-wise, was a huge shift because we had just scored twice in a row. You know, we were down 28-10. The next time they get the ball, it's 28-24. You know, we've got all the momentum. And then we stop them on that drive. Our kids did a fabulous job. On that rep, we played man coverage. He had nobody to throw it to. And that one, as much as anything, hurt. And then we got, you know, a couple more penalties on that defensive drive. All three of our defensive penalties happened on that drive that put them up 35-24. So there's a couple sits like that, Dave. Those are the ones that we just got to keep getting our guys educated on when you pull off, when those things happen. A couple of penalties happened just because we were overmatched. We were physically overmatched, and you know, our guys were trying to make sure the quarterback didn't get hit.
Can you address, you know, because you obviously had to do some shuffling, as you said,
Mhm.
along the offensive line because of,
Right.
you know, injuries and
Mhm.
Bourne being out, stuff like that. Can you address that, kind of where that stands?
Sure. Yeah, we went into the game and we moved Connor Mewborn, who'd been playing guard. That's the spot he'd been playing. He started the game at right tackle. And Connor had some struggles in the game. He had a couple penalties called on him. We rotated in Kyle Bottoms at right tackle. Kyle had been playing. Both those guys were just trying to do the best they could during the game. We started Tyler Fisher, true freshman at left guard. He performed very well. You know, he's going to be starting. He's going to be at that spot. He's starting. The plan going into it, Dave, we were going to start Eli Anderson. He'd been practicing at tackle, and he got a concussion during practice last week. So we had to shift gears quickly with that one. But Jack Lowney at left tackle played very well. Josh Mann at center played well. We moved DJ Morrell to guard. DJ played very well in that matchup. And then we were trying to work those guys out at tackle. So we'll see where Eli's at this week. You know, we got to find out with his health and trying to come back from that concussion before we, you know, finalize what we're going to do positionally.
Anything else for Coach?
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, 12th Monarchs, and we hope to see you Saturday at 1 o'clock at Norfolk State.